I grew up on the WWF, loved combat sports. My dad always had me watching, kickboxing, boxing. I did tend to get into a lot of fights as a kid. Was getting thrown out of school or suspended all the time. Not a bad kid. I just liked to fight, and never really played sports. I was a skateboarder. When I graduated high school, I was about 6 foot tall, 145 pounds, soaking wet. So I was never a big guy. And after I got out of high school is when I started kind of lifting weights and getting into more athletic stuff. And it was the very first UFC, and pretty much from there I was hooked. I loved it, watched it from day one, always got the videotapes. I used to work at a Blockbuster Video, so I would wait for all the videotapes to come in. I bought all the original old school tapes, and I still have them, and I watched them over and over and over and over, and I loved it from there, man. I started bouncing in nightclubs when I was about 18 in Arizona. You could bounce out there at 18, and that actually got me really into fighting MMA. I was learning close quarters combat and ways to, disarm situations and things like that. And the evolution of my fight game began from there. I started training at better camps and doing things, and really fell in love with the ground game. When I first started fighting, there wasn't amateur fighting. It was, you turned pro and that was it. There wasn't even, I don't even think it existed yet. So it was, you're getting thrown in with whoever you get thrown in. My very first fight, I fought a guy I think had already had 25 fights. I stepped up and took it and did it anyways. And man, there is no real way to experience or to express that feeling of that emotional roller coaster that you go through, the nerves. There's nothing that'll get you prepared for that. You can do all the training in the world. You can be in here getting beat up by the best guys, and you can come close to it. You can come close to those situations. You can have your coaches and people put you in that environment of things that'll happen in that fight, but it's just walking out to the cage. It's very surreal. Like, you don't realize this isn't real yet. This isn't real yet. It's not going to happen until you get in that cage, and there's thousands of people out there and watching you two people get ready to bust each other in the face. On TV, it looks great, and that's why I think there's so many people that want to do it. But when you walk out there, you just about shit yourself. It's a horrible experience. You can't feel your legs, your arms. You're like, oh my God, I know I'm in shape, but I can't feel anything. Nothing's going. This is going to be horrible. I'm going to get beat up. And you got to realize the other guy's feeling that too. And it's nothing like it when that door closes and it's you and another guy and a referee in there, and you're going to go to war. There's no greater feeling when you get that hand raised, and there's no worse feeling than when you get that, the other guy gets his hand raised. It's a learning experience, and hopefully most guys can take away from that and learn from it. But it sucks having to sit around for, a few months dwelling on that loss until you can get another fight. You just got to try to stay positive. You got to try to keep, as a coach, try to keep your guys positive and hope, like I said, try to figure out what the learning experience from that loss was. So it's a very, very mixed bag. There's times, when you're cutting weight and you're doing things where you're just like, God damn, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. My last few fights, I knew. I lost my last 2 or 3 fights just for the simple fact that I was coaching halftime, running a gym, and I knew I was 50% into it. I was half into it, and I knew when I got in that cage that I wasn't, I was hoping I would just be better than the other guy, and that right there was enough for me to know, all right, my heart's not into it. I can't be 100% into it. It's either fighting everything or everything else. It's so hard to be that commitment. I knew I just didn't have it anymore. It was very, very, very hard to walk away from fighting because right off the bat I went out and said I was retired, and that is the strangest thing, because being in the community and the environment that I'm around all the time, people are, oh, when's your next fight? When's this? And as the fighter, you get all the glory, and people want to be around you. They look up to you, even if you're just not even a big, a big name, but your friends, everybody, you take that identity. So it was very, very, very hard for me to walk away comfortably. I retired, I think, before I lost my last fight. I had retired for a while and then came out of retirement and, did it and went back and forth with that a few times. And it was difficult because that's your identity. I fought for almost 10 years. I've been involved with the sport for almost 15 years now. And that's who you are, and everybody looks at you as that, this person and this fighter. So to walk away was really hard, and I've actually, since then, I've dealt with it just fine. Now I love it because I had such an outlet to stay in the sport for pre-planning and having my gym and my team, so I get to live vicariously through my guys. So it's a little bit different for me walking away. I'm still involved, heavily involved in the sport and with my guys, so I'm very, very fortunate in that aspect. I had a couple fights in, and I realized early on that I wanted to eventually be a coach, that was my goal. I kind of wanted to almost fight to get the experience to be able to pass on to other fighters and coach. And so everything kind of aligned for me at the same time of like knowing that early on in my career, I took the steps to approach at the time, which was our coach, Ricardo Perez and Sergio Pena at Las Vegas Combat Club, in going into business and opening another school in a nice commercial residential neighborhood, a smaller gym, and that's what we did, and it just kind of blossomed from there. So, and it's grown into, from that school, started I think with 1,500 square feet to 8,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet to now 16,000 plus. You need to have a coach or somebody that can actually guide you and that you trust. I always tell my guys, listen, if you come in and we start working, new guys, if what I do isn't for you, no problem. I'll help you find somebody that works better for you. If there's not somebody within this gym, I'll help you. I'll send you in the right direction in your own place. Not everybody, you have to mesh with somebody. I have to trust you 100%. You have to trust me 100%. You have to know that when we're going into battle, that I'm there for you 100%, that I've done my job to get you completely ready, and that you've done your job to be completely ready. So coaching, I think, is the most important aspect of everything. There's certain guys that are going to get by on talent, there's certain guys that are going to get by on toughness, but you need to have somebody who's been there, done that, and able to say, let's take these fights. I know some very, very talented fighters that are 0-3 because they've taken stupid fights, because they've done stupid shit. And in this sport, you get that, you start racking up those records, it's hard to get to the bigger shows and get to the, better paydays. So you have to be smart with these young fighters and help guide their careers. And I'm not talking like picking tomato cans and letting guys fight, but you have to fight guys on level. I get almost all the time, I get guys coming, hey man, I got an offer to fight next week against two, so-and-so, and he's got 35 fights. My guy's got 2 fights. I'm like, dude, let's take our time. So the coaching aspect is super important. We've got a ton of guys every single day. Guys come in and say, I want to be a fighter, I want to be this, I want to be that. Guys who have never trained are like, I want to fight. And unfortunately, the shitty side of the sport is there's so many amateur shows right now. And the reason there's so many amateur shows is because amateur don't have to pay these guys, okay? It's the same fight. Okay, so you can't elbow somebody. Wow, but you're still gonna go out there and get hit, punched, and kicked and hurt. People think, oh, it's an amateur, I'm gonna be okay. No, you're doing just as much abuse to your body, maybe in a shorter round, than you would in a pro fight. So these guys use and abuse these young fighters, and they will let any jackass off the street get in there. Anybody can go in and say, I want to fight. Okay, you're booked. You're fighting for the title. So I really try to, you can pretty much, somebody's attitude, you can pretty much tell right off the bat what their intentions are. If they really want to do this to be popular, they want to do this to impress a girl, they want to do this to actually have a career. These guys that come in, if I tell them, okay, you know what, spend 6 months in regular classes, then come talk to me and we'll see what happens from there. Half the time I never see those guys again. Okay. The other thing is that I do notice, I take recognition, those guys do that, and then they keep hounding me about it, or I see them all the time, see the same face. Coach, when can I come into pro practice? I'll let them come in, and I tell all the guys, even fighters that have had experience before, okay, you can jump into our practice. I don't believe in doing tryouts. I think tryouts are stupid. It's a money tactic ploy. You're gonna pay $100, come do a tryout, whatever. You wanna try out? Come into class for a week, okay? And I tell my guys, anybody that comes in, you can come into this class for a week. At the end of that week, I'm going to sit you down and we're gonna have a talk, and I'm gonna say, sorry bud, you need to spend some more time in jiu-jitsu, you need to spend some more time in wrestling, you need to spend some time more, or I'm gonna say, listen man, I like your attitude, I like what you're doing, come on, keep coming, and we're gonna build you. It takes a certain kind of person, like I said before, to get in the cage and wanna to get punched in the face or punch somebody else in the face. So most fighters, there's a little something off there, little something different than most of the time. But for the general part, man, most fighters are real laid back, great people. The guys that are the assholes that are out there, with this ego and trying to do, be big and bad, those guys I don't consider real fighters. They're just dicks. But for the most part, fighters are good people, man. Mixed martial arts has pretty much developed my entire life. I've been doing this, like I said, for the last 15 years, and everything I do now is pretty much around that. Coaching, I didn't realize, I've always half-assed coached for the last 10 years. I've owned the school for 12 years and kind of been, like I said, half-assed helping the younger guys. I realize how dedicated, devoted, and almost like a selfless job coaching is. I love what I do. I absolutely love it. I love helping guys. It's more taxing than fighting, I can tell you that. More taxing on your body, more taxing mentally. Basically, you know, everything I do is evolved around my fighters. I don't have any days off anymore. I don't have time. I spent my last birthday 2 weeks ago, cornering somebody in Oklahoma for Bellator, which was great. He won, so that was awesome. But, you know, I basically give all myself to my guys, to my gym, to my team. Now through that, it becomes exhausting, and sometimes there's a lot of people that say I'm a dick, you know, or whatever, but I care about every single guy on this team, a guy, girl, whatever. I love my gym, I love my team, I love the coaches around, I'm so fortunate to have the people around me. And I give everything I have, heart and soul, into these guys winning. You know, if someone's going to trust me with their career, so to speak, and their lives, I'm going to give it all. You know, I would feel horrible if I ever shortchanged somebody's career because I was worried about becoming famous or becoming this or becoming that. I don't care. Like I said, I'm a very you know, like I said, it's sometimes hard to deal with, sarcastic type of person. I have a sarcastic sense of humor, but for the most part, man, I love what I do, and I give 100% of my life into my gym and my fighters. I've worked real hard over the years to make sure that the gym stays very diverse as far as very open and acceptable for kids, women, men, children, people of all age. MMA can be obviously it's an aggressive sport. It can be very intimidating for someone to want to walk into a mixed martial arts gym. Especially if they don't know or follow it. You know, most of the people that walk in this door love the UFC, love fighting, so they already know what they're kind of getting into. But even then, it's still a nerve-wracking thing. What I've really tried to do is create an environment that's good for all. If you come in here, I mean, we have close to 700 students at this gym. I would say probably 5% of those are fighters or wannabe fighters. You know, one thing we just don't put up with. I don't care what your name is, how big, how popular you are, how badass you think you are. If you don't have the right attitude and good attitude and present that to the people around you, whether you're on the fight team or whether you're just in the regular class, we just don't allow it. So we keep a very friendly environment. But you know, you come in here in the afternoon and you'll see 50, 60 of the baddest dudes in the world training. And so it's good to have a mixture of both. I've seen kids that have come in here before that were either picked on or bullied or this, or just quiet, shy kids, and within a month, completely different kid. You know, unfortunately, fighting is an aggressive, egotistical thing. Good for the ego, bad for the ego sometimes. The one thing is that once you know how to protect yourself or how to protect your family or whatever, that gives you a sense of confidence in a child and an adult and whatever, and it really allows a person to blossom. As soon as I learned how to actually fight for real, never got in another street fight again. Didn't need to, you know, it just alleviated that need to prove myself or whatever. When you're secure with that, and that's what I see the most with kids, is they come in and they get to interact with other kids, they get to burn some energy, get their aggression out, but also feel confident about knowing that they can handle themselves in a situation. And we obviously teach, you know, what we teach you in here is not to be gone out and used in an improper manner. You know, it's for self-defense only, or if you eventually ever want to become a professional, then that's something. But I've seen so many kids come in here that never speak a word. Within months, they're just, laughing, having a good time, the most talkative kids in here. So I think it's very, very good for everybody, especially kids. It's an awesome sport. If you're in Vegas, come check out Syndicate Mixed Martial Arts. If you're not, find a local MMA gym and get into it, man. It's one of the best sports in the world. It's awesome, great workout, great for confidence, great for everything. Keep supporting the sport.